Let's start here. So I wasn't even going to do this conversation. I think it's almost a little overdone. But I think about it a little bit more and I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is an interesting discussion to talk about. On this show, if I can choose whether to be positive or choose whether to be negative, I will always choose be positive. Being positive is a better way for me to get clicks. It's a better way for me to get views. It's a better way for me to basically adapt to the fan base. But the one thing that I won't do is lie to you. So when I see the positive outpour after the Cardinals free agency, I find it a little disingenuous. I find it not really fair to the fans. I think it sets unrealistic expectations. Last year, I was the one because I had sole belief in Kyler Murray, because I had sole belief in Monty Ossenfort, because I had sole belief in Jonathan Gannon. The offense, Marvin Harrison Jr., the defense, I didn't think was going to be very good, but I thought that they would be good enough to win 9 to 10 games and get into the playoffs. And so I was the one last year who was given unrealistic expectations. I was the one that set the bar a little too high. But I did think they'd win 9. I did think they'd win 8 games. So now when I see the standard, which it should be, is the Arizona Cardinals making the playoffs this year, I would agree with that's the standard. I don't know if I would say that after free agency, they're a definite playoff team. I like the additions of Josh Sweat and Dalvin Tomlinson. I sung the praises. I love Garrett Williams, Max Melton, Budda Baker. The defense still doesn't have a capable linebacker. There's no Kaiser White yet. Still doesn't have capable elite level pass rushers. As much as I do think that the floor of this pass rush has been elevated because you add Dalvin Tomlinson, second year for Darius Robinson, and then you also add Josh Sweat. Like, yes, that makes this deep pass rush so much better. But it's still in the bottom third of pass rushes. So we're probably still going to have teams pick apart this team. Now, what I think Jonathan Gannon was awesome at doing was manufacturing artificially the blitz. Artificially manufacturing sacks. I thought he was great at that. But you can only do so much with talent. You can only do so much with so little talent. And I don't know if Josh Sweat is going to be the same player with the Cardinals without having other high-level pass rushers and defenders on his defense as well. So I know it's not fair, and I feel like it is me being a little negative. If you want to set the standard at the Cardinals being a playoff team, have at it. I won't stop you, and I don't think you're crazy. But just looking at what they did in free agency, I can't get there. I have to be able to trust Kyler Murray. It's not just the defensive side of me. It's not just the pass rush. But regardless of how we feel about this Cardinals season, they're still going to have to play the second half of the season. And Kyler Murray wasn't very good in the second half of the season. I think it's fair to label Drew Petzing a giant question mark. Their still second wide receiver is Michael Wilson, who I think is good, but is he to the level of being a second wide receiver? And I think my guy Aaron in the chat with the super chat said K1 needs to clinch playoffs or he's done in Phoenix. It's so funny, Aaron. I almost believe that a lot of people are just done with him already. So I'm with you. It's hard for me to just set the standard at, yep, they're a playoff team. Minimum 10 wins next year. High floor, 12 wins. That feels a little disingenuous. This pass rush is still not very good. If they add a Trey Hendrickson, which it doesn't look like that's going to happen as of this morning, it sounds like the trade market is dwindling and they're going to try to keep him. So look at the Bengals for shelling out the money. But then it just leaves that maybe Micah Parsons, and that was always a long shot to begin with. So now you're going in to the season without a high-level pass rusher. Again, post-free agency, I wouldn't set the standard yet at the Arizona Cardinals being a playoff team. I wouldn't absolutely just say they're going to win 10 games. This pass rush, bottom third, still in the NFL. Josh Sweat, as much as I like him, more than what the Cardinals had, he still could potentially be just a guy. We don't know how he's going to be outside of Philly. Dalvin Tomlinson, think he's a giant A-plus acquisition. Still everything behind him, not great. Darius Robinson, first-round pick. I worry about the pass rush still. And even more than that, I worry about Kyler Murray succeeding post-Week 10. Drew Petzing is a giant question mark. They're wide receiver too. I'm not sure they have one right now. Maybe, but I'm not sure they do. So, post-free agency, I'd say this team is a fringe playoff team. It's not me trying to be negative. It's not me trying to be a contrarian. I just don't see it as much as other teams do. If I told you, if the Cardinals added Josh Sweat, Dalvin Tomlinson, those are their main two acquisitions. If I told you I added those two players to the Cardinals roster from last year, do they make the playoffs? Probably not, because the offense wasn't good enough. And that's what we're going to say again this year. We're not going to hold the defense accountable. We know that there's a lack of talent and a lack of pass rush. We're going to hold the offense accountable. Can they drag this defense to the playoffs? Listen, I'll make another post-draft one of these, and we'll see what the Cardinals do. If the Cardinals draft the first-round pass rusher, then you're talking about a first-round pass rusher, Darius Robinson, who was a first-rounder last year, who I still think is really good, Josh Sweat, Dalvin Tomlinson. Then we can really talk about how much that's going to help this team. Overall, if you're just trying to sell me on playoffs, just to sell me on it, I'm over that. I'm over the pom-pom waving. They've got to put pen to paper. And what the Cardinals did was great, but I thought they did swing and miss a little bit on finding that big trade, that big-er free agency signing. Granted, free agency was not great this year, and I think they lucked out and got Dalvin Tomlinson. But still, I worry about the consistency of this pass rush. And it's not just that. What is the offense going to do? Can Kyler Murray continue to work it out with this team offensively? Those are two giant question marks. And so I don't think we should just give this team the pass of, oh yeah, that's a playoff team, just because they added a couple more players and free agency makes you feel good. Free agency is oftentimes fool's gold. It can potentially make or break you, which is why I've never had it out for Monty Ossenfort for not going crazy in free agency. I thought he did miss the mark a little bit with going and getting a star pass rusher, but that is what it is. We'll see what they can do. We'll talk about it again post-draft, but as of right now, they're a fringe playoff team.